Hi everyone, and welcome to another daily TidalCycles video. We'll probably be messing around more with chords and answering a question about scales and keys, and messing around with seqPLoop a little. So to talk about seqPLoop, we've played before with in a few videos, and is really good for sequencing. It's very good for sequencing like more complicated patterns. You name patterns, and then you can use it in sort of a meta pattern language, and it's kind of fun. seqPLoop is a little more. I think it's a really interesting function. It's a little less flexible than something like but it also has it's got a very clean interface for doing more backbeats, mostly because it sort of you explicitly describe the overlap in time rather than having to kind of implicitly layer things with the pattern notation. So let's show that quick. And here's an example I was messing with a little, but let's just ignore that now. So for seqPLoop, let's look at its type signature like we often do. And its time signature, type signature. Time signature means something else in music. Its type signature is it takes a list of triples, and those triples are a start time and an end time in cycles, and a pattern, and then it basically merges all that together with the sort of overlaps you describe. And what's nice is that it kind of does the right thing, right? So if we do something like super long here, and I'm partially cribbing from the example I was playing with earlier, but if we do something like this, right? What did I do wrong? Okay, I was missing a square bracket. So yeah, it's just going to play that every cycle. And if you want to add other things, let's say we do something like, let's say 4 through 18. Let's do just a simple hi-hat pattern. Here, I should change this a little. And so this should. So if we listen for a little bit. Right, so you can hear how it's sort of playing things in the overlap, and they'll cut out again. So yeah, it's kind of a fun little function. Let's see, I want to do something like this. Super Hammond. With the note. C4 major. So we'll have to kind of wait for it to loop back around. Okay. So you can kind of count a little and see how many cycles it's taken to get back around. partly wrote this example the way I did because you can see that slow does what you'd still kind of expect. So that's kind of neat, right? You're describing these explicit sort of ranges, but then like doing fast or slow inside here is actually going to still affect the pattern. So it's kind of useful that way. So yeah, that's a function that I think I want to more consistently use because it's pretty powerful, pretty useful, and beyond that, there's something else I wanted to talk about, which is about the chords. So, let's go back to a previous file quick, which is fine. So yeah, with scales is where I'm at. I know I said chords. So if we sort of copy paste this in here. So a question I got on one of my like explicit tutorial videos was, how do you shift the key when you use the scale function? And that's just an awesome question, right? Because it's not super obvious what the answer is at first, but then, you know, like when you see an example worked out, it's like, oh, it's one of those things that kind of just clicks. And so the thing here is that any particular scale mode is basically defined as a sequence of, you know, whether you're going you know, 1 or 2 semitones up to the next note, you know, more or less, right? That's roughly correct. And so, for example, like Dorian mode, you are going to be going whole, half, whole, 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 half, whole, right? So in other words, 2 semitone, 1 semitone, 2 semitone, 2 semitone, 2 semitone, 1 semitone, 2 semitone, right? And so if we wanted to kind of shift, you know, if we wanted to see what's C Dorian, well then that would just be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay? And then we can just look at this, and what we get is, here's our actual description of what we did. Since I put it all in one cycle, we can see it easily using the normal visualization. So, you know, that's going to be C, and then D, E flat. Oh my goodness, I feel like I'm messing up slightly, remembering how to translate the semitones to the actual notes. But yeah, like I suppose we could just really quickly try and do it by making a pattern. Now, this is actually comes to another question I got, which is that if you're using Tidal, a recent install of Tidal, it'll be pattern note will be the type. For reasons of a class I'm teaching, I'm still technically on the 1/6 star branch. And what that means is that I'm going to be dealing with, it's a pattern of double instead for notes. Note was sort of a new type introduced as a part of kind of abstracting over what the meaning of notes are. Okay. So let's see if I can do this correctly, and we can just sort of see, no pun intended, and so, yeah, okay, so C, and that's D, and that should be E flat, okay, and that is 0, 2, and 3, and then, let me see, then that would be, yeah, F is then the 5 semitones, and then we see we need to go up another whole, So we go to, let me see, is that going to be, yep, that's just G, and then to go up another 2 semitones, that would be, yeah, I actually do have to kind of think about this hard in terms of switching between them. So then that would just be A, and then, so that would be, and then next would be B flat, I think. So 9, 10, and then C5, okay. And, or C6, okay. So now we can compare. So yeah, the first one is what came out of this pattern double, and the second is from the use of the actual scale function, and it goes 0, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, 12. 0, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, 12. Okay, so yes, Dorian is just going to be C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat, C6. And there's your octave. Okay. So, how do you shift the key? Well, the thing is that whole pattern of whole, half, whole, 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 half, whole, that doesn't say anything about where you start. So part of the cool thing here is, well, the way you shift to a different key is you just go up by that many semitones, but you want to do it outside of the scale function, right? You want to do it, so it's really convenient to do something like this. Scroll down. So if we want to do Dorian mode in E flat, then that would be, we would shift up from, you know, C to C sharp to D to D sharp / E flat, right? And then that's, so we go to E flat. And so that's 3 semitones up. So then we just do 3 plus, and then the scale. And, you know, if we, and I actually looked up to double check my math. I looked up on a website for people learning music theory. Okay, well, what's Dorian mode in E flat? And it was this, you know, E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat. It's a lot of flats. And so that's, you know, what does that give you? That gives you, well, gives you this. 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 15, which, you know, is, as you can sort of tell from the pattern, it's, no pun intended, it's fitting over here. That's going to be exactly what doing Dorian in C, key of C, is if you just shift over by 3 semitones. So, and if we in fact evaluate this and, you know, the shifting the Dorian scale by 3 semitones, we get, you know, the exact same thing. 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 15. 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 15. Yeah. Okay. Everything is whole steps except for the half from the second and third to the third note, and then, you know, just before you finish out the octave. Okay, so that was a really good question someone had, and I realized that it was kind of important to do, to talk about the how you do those sort of things, because it illuminates that there's kind of this almost, I personally think that if you're dealing with code like this and dealing with the math, there's a lot about the way scales and keys work that makes, and chords, that makes more sense, not less. That's because, like, for example, when I was first trying to learn how to do music, a little over a year ago, right? Maybe closer to a year and a half at this point. And it was this funny thing where, like, chords seemed like an arbitrary number of notes until if you see them, written out with like the note the note names. And then I actually I was learning Tidal as a part of trying to learn how to make music, because I've kind of learned them both at the same time. And then, so what happened? I looked at it on like the staff notation, and I was like, well, wait a second, these are just a regular distance of semitones apart. And this sorry, not regular distance of semitones, but if you look at it in terms of the staff notation, like it's a regular distance apart as notes in the scale. That's what I was trying to say. It's the opposite. If you look at it in terms of, it's this many semitones apart, then actually gets funky because you've got the difference between minor and major and stuff. But if you just look at it as, well, okay, take the first note as the root, and then I skip one, and then I take the note after that, and then I skip one, and I take the note after that. And then when I was looking at the staff notation, I realized that, and then it was like, well, what the heck is that in Tidal? Well, that's, that's just saying that's just that, right? It's root, third, fifth. Okay. And it suddenly makes more sense, right, than it did, trying to look at like a piano keyboard and understand it that way and think of it in terms of set number of semitones. Like, not that that's not a bad way to think of it, because it gets useful when you want to kind of break a scale or, have sort of accidentals that way. But I think there's a lot about all of this that makes a lot of intuitive sense when you just kind of think of as numbers. And like, for the fact that, well, what's changing your key? It's just a constant shift of the pattern through semitones. That's it. So with all of that, I'll probably turn my mic off and just make a little quiet music, I think, tonight. Probably go back to my sort of old standby I seem to go to like once a week, of just like quiet piano music. So hope you enjoy that.